Good at this, but maybe with a little practice I could tell myself to relax it. Will be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsie.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing overhead. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, but for long, the fight's too hard. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again at 100 Days of Rootkit, the best stream out there for learning how to become a developer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We are starting day 16. We are chugging through it. We are 16% of the way through right now. Time is passing quickly indeed. Thank you guys if you're coming back for another epic stream. If you are new to the stream, welcome. Something that was brought up earlier when I was talking to people is, you know, how do we refer to you guys or people on the Discord and stuff? And we label you guys all as what we call achievers, because you guys are out here trying to achieve something great for yourself. All right, and we want to help you achieve as much as possible. So keep achieving. Also, just like our anthem, whoopsies are okay, all right? Failures are okay. We encourage you to fail, to be wrong, to make mistakes, all right? If you're a mistake, you're in the right place right now, all right? We want you here. So let's go ahead and take a look at BAM. So first off, we are a nonprofit, all right? So, there we go. So we are a nonprofit, and we're trying to raise money to keep our organization running along its tracks. So if you want to make a donation, make a donation. We got a bunch of perks here that we will hit, including me shaving my head and potentially shaving my beard, but we low-key kind of don't want to hit that one, all right? Look at this thing. It's majestic. Why would you want it to be shaved away, all right? Also on here, things have been fixed, rotated around by default now. My music will, come on, lo-fi music. There we go. Now I will always dance whenever there is a donation, all right? So that reward is gone, and these epic sweaters are now on there. Look at this. Look at this beautiful, beautiful sweater. Look, don't I look nice and comfy right now? Look, I'm so warm, comfortable. It's really thick. And look at that. We got the Rootkit logo on the back. Oh, man. Super, super nice. All right. Go get yourself one of those. We are very limited right now on how many we have. And if the demand is great enough, we will order more. But it's very, very, very limited. All right. Additionally, if you really like what we're doing and you want to continuously support us, subscribe to our Patreon or join our Discord and become one of our Discord members. Also, what I've realized recently, for those of you on YouTube, there's like a 30 to 1 minute delay, 30-second to 1 minute delay for those of you on YouTube, which is way, way longer than I thought, which makes sense on why when I ask some questions and stuff, I to sit a while to see responses. So we'll look into that. There is a mode to do like ultra low latency on YouTube, so maybe we'll start doing that moving forward. Those of you on Twitch, which me personally, I'm like about Twitch. You guys are like on a 10-second or less delay. It's actually really, really good. So I guess Twitch has something going for it after all right? I see your comments there. So participate, help us out. It means a lot. All donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations by a generous anonymous donor we have, and they'll be adding to this at the end of every month. Additionally, if you have no money, that's fine. Get yourself some free merch. You see this beautiful sweater I was talking up? Look at it. Look how beautiful it is. All right. You can get one of these for free. Just go ahead and go onto our site, click on blog, and you'll see our week 3 giveaway. You can go and enter in our week 3 giveaway. It's basic stuff, making sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Twitch, and a bunch of other stuff that you can do to score a bunch of points in order to get entries for the giveaway. And we're going to be doing the giveaways moving forward on Sunday during our Q&A chill periods. think that's about it. Ultra low latency in YouTube says it's near real time, but you can't do 1440p or 4K, which may be an issue because I believe I'm streaming in 4K. I don't know, we'll have to double check that. If it's not actually streaming in 4K, then we'll definitely turn that on. All right, let us see. Is that everything I need to cover right now? I believe so. So let's what is this is definitely not live on YouTube. There we go. All right, so we're following on our computer science certification roadmap here on GitHub. All of you guys can go check it out. This is everything you need to know in order to become certified. All right, we are on networking protocols right now. We finished up fundamentals, so just talking about some of the basic things, how you would connect nodes together in different configurations. You can connect nodes together with each other, and now we're going to talk about those connections, particularly the cables and how you transmit data over them and issues that may arise and speeds that you can test for. All right, we're going to demystify a lot of that stuff that you hear on the internet and people just doing marketing jazz, and we're going to get to the facts today. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. If you guys have any questions at all at any time, just drop them in the chat. Also, we are in the events chat. Well, I'm in the events chat on our Discord in the voice chat. So if you are a Patreon or a Discord premium member, you can go ahead and enter in there and chat with me. All right, you can either type on the Twitch or YouTube chat, which there is a little bit of delay, and I'll answer those, or we can just have a convo. All right, interrupt at any time. You're welcome to do so. All right, sweet. Well, you guys ready to get into it? I'm ready to get into it. Let's talk about cables. All right, this is some fascinating stuff. All right, just groundbreaking. Everyone loves talking about cables, right? I got some cables. Look at this. Look at this charging cable. Well, hopefully I didn't break anything. Doesn't this just wake you up in the morning, seeing cables like this? It doesn't wake me up in the morning. All right, I'm lying. I don't find cables that interesting. All right, unless they can directly benefit me, which we're going to learn about the benefits of certain types of cable. So let's look at this first cable we got here, coaxial cables. Coaxial cables are probably pretty common for a lot of you out there. This is just a straight up big piece of copper that's in a bunch of shielding. The cable's like yay thick, all right, and it's covered by a lot of shielding just to protect that one piece of copper wire inside of it, right? That's what the bulk of it is just protection from people stepping on it, bending the elements, but also what do you call it? Electromagnetic interference, which we'll get into here in a second. So, talking about these guys, let's see what's in here. And so, what I'll be doing today and mostly going forward, we're going to be showing how you can pretty much grab these terms yourself when you want to teach yourself, and without using our courseware stuff, which will be up when Project 26 launches. It will be on there, all right, for y'all to see. But right now, we're going to go through individual, just found this, how they go about it, all right? We got coaxial, and let's see here. Wikipedia pretty much nails most of these topics right on the head. All right, so it's just a wire, pretty much. Okay. Interesting little graphic here, kind of throwing me for a loop, but it's being phased out right now because it has a lot of limitations on what you can send signal-wise across the wire. Typically, when you have coaxial connections, at least here in the States, Xfinity is probably the largest provider that still runs most of their stuff over this type of cable. You're going to need a modem at the end of it. and we'll get into what a modem is here in a second. But let's move on to the next guy. We'll revisit these as we move forward and fill out more information about them. All right, twisted pairs. This is a term for something that you are very, very familiar with. It's your Ethernet cable and what's inside of there. So your Ethernet cable will have a little protective covering, and inside there will be 8 wires. That is correct, 8 wires. And these 8 wires are what transmits all the data that you utilize. All right? And it's called twisted pairs because you'll see there are several twisted pairs, 4 twisted pairs of cabling in there, and why they are twisted is to help with electromagnetic interference, which we'll get more to in a second here. And next, the bad boy, the biggie, fiber optic, which is literally glass or plastic. It doesn't matter, each one does the same capability, just plastic will have more degradation on the signal, but it's literally a piece of glass that's covered by a protective coating that you can send light through, and that light is the data that you're transmitting. So instead of doing electric signaling, you're using light, right? If you ever had one of those, these things, they're like little toys. They have like a light at the bottom, and there's a bunch of plastic fiber optic cables coming out of it, and it like looks really cool, just like this. That's literally fiber optics. That's exactly how they work. All right. Any questions on that stuff so far? If you do, go and plug them in, and we're gonna keep chugging along here. We talked a lot about this electromagnetic interference. So let's actually dive into it right now. So as you can tell, this right here, let me zoom in a little bit more. It looks like metal because it is. It's copper. All right, it's copper metal. Same thing here in the coaxial cables. You have copper metal that's in here. And there's an actual electric signal being transmitted across these wires. Now, electricity ends up kind of not being the nicest thing to handle. It's kind of crazy and wants to do a lot of things, and it likes messing with each other. All right, so it's common to have something called electromagnetic interference, because when you run electricity through a wire, you will create potentially a what do you call it, a magnetic field. Let's see what this article says. And God, I hate this stuff. I constantly click on things like this where it's like, okay, hold on, let's go back one. See, they got a nice definition here, and then you click on it and you see it's all here, and then it goes away, and then it wants you to do a whole dance just to get into the site. Super, super irritating. There we go, trusted old Wikipedia. So sometimes you'll hear it called radio wave frequency interference. What's up, Matthew? I see you saying yo in the chat. So this is also something that happens with radio waves because it is electrical signals being sent across the air. So have you ever been, I don't know, I had your cell phone and you went into a building and you just lost your signal like immediately? This is because the radio waves can't penetrate the building or easily get through the building. Maybe it's lead lined walls, I don't know. But the radio waves would be interference, you know, and when you have wires that closely go next to each other, they also cause interference. It's very, very small, but they have some type of, you know, electrical interference that is basically radiating from them. All right, so when you have lots of wires next to each other, if you're just sending power down them, it's not that big of an issue because you're not transmitting data. There's nothing important besides energy needs to move from point A to point B. But when you're transmitting data, it becomes a real issue, this interference, because you need that data to be the same. When it's sent from point A to point B, it needs to be the same message. The integrity needs to stay intact. So electromagnetic interference can cause issues where the signal gets all types of messed up. Typically, data is on telephone poles. At least here in the US, you'll commonly see it near telephone poles or power cable lines. Power cable lines are massive cables sending a lot of power, and they're transmitting these electromagnetic interference waves all of the time, and they can mess up and scramble the signal on the data lines. All right, the data lines usually hang lower. If you look at a telephone cable pole or like a power cable pole that's in your neighborhood, usually the power cables will be at the top, and towards the bottom will be your data cables, aka coaxial cables, fiber optic cables, etc., etc. When you're dealing with electricity, you'll run into problems with electromagnetic interference if you are too close to high voltage lines, maybe normal wall plugs in your house. It's no bueno. So that's why you'll see there's a lot of insulation. Half of it is usually to protect the wire from being destroyed, and the other half, you'll see this copper mesh here, is to protect it against electromagnetic interference. All right, it just causes a big wall of protection. Sometimes you'll also see foil shielding in some of these cables. Now, in your twisted pair, at the higher end, bigger ones, you'll see also foil and shielding right here, your coppered braid shielding. On lower end ones, and we'll get into this a little bit more on the list, you won't really see it. But on the ones that you don't really see it, they still have the same issue, especially when you have lots and lots of cables right next to each other. You can have issues with magnetic interference messing up the data on the other lines. So how do they resolve that? Well, if you twist the cables together, you stop a lot of that interference from happening. So that's why they're twisted cable pairs, because twisting it helps protect against that interference. All right, just some cool lingo so you understand why it's set up the way it is. All right, now this is all in the electric sphere. All right, we're not dealing with the electricity sphere of things when we're dealing with fiber optics. So a great benefit for fiber optic cables is they can be smaller and thinner than twisted pair and coaxial, because they have no interference. If you take a magnet, if you take a radio dish and put it right beside fiber optic cable, it doesn't matter. It's light that's being transmitted. As long as you're protecting it, it's in a nice little dark tube, you should be good. Let's see here, see some, just a heads up, the tip link in the description leads to, oh no, leads to, oh my, okay, I see that. I don't know, it's, the link is like cut off for the charity and the free giveaway stuff in the description. I'm not quite sure why it is doing that. Let me go ahead. Oh, what did I just close? Let me go ahead and paste these in the chat for all of y'all that are interested. And for the free giveaway, just go ahead and hop over to our website. You can go to the blog, and on the blog you'll see the week 3 giveaway, right? And every week's giveaway will be on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop this in, just in case you guys don't want to do the whole traverse process. All right, sweet. Okay, so any questions so far on what we talked about? So in electricity world, where we're sending electric signals, interference is caused just naturally by electrons going down a wire. It doesn't matter if it's copper, gold, whatever. There will always be some type of field around it that is created that can mess up other stuff. And this is fun if you take, I don't know when you would have the time for it, but if you take your phone to, I don't know, really close to power lines. Don't do anything dangerous. I'm trying to think of a good example of where you can like emulate or see this. I guess I'll give a story. All right, I'll give a story of where I made an oopsie, and I thought I was gonna get in trouble for a little bit, but I ended up being a-okay. So interference is, I mean, all around you there's, you know, electromagnetic waves happening at all times, radio waves happening at all times, all right? And it's pretty much a yelling match. Things are yelling to my phone in order to communicate with my phone and connect it up. My router here at my house is basically yelling a signal, and if you can hear it, the better you can hear it, the closer you are, you'll get potentially better connections. I guess Wi-Fi would be a good one because the further you're away, the signal drops, sure, but there's also other signals that are messing with it, even all the way to the solar level. Like the sun itself is sending a bunch of crap our way that will mess up your signal, and that's where you get like static. So if you ever have an old TV with just a antenna, that static that you see, that's just a bunch of static. Oh my gosh, what do we got? We got a donation for $1.60. Whoa! There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, that is pretty hype. $1.69, nice. I like the dollar amount and the cents amount more particularly. Wink, wink. All right, meet me later. All right. Okay, where was I? Man, look what you did. Look what you did, Matt. You messed up. You messed up my train of thought. Interference. Yeah. Story time. Let's just get to the story. All right. So I had a Raspberry Pi, and if you guys aren't familiar with the Raspberry Pi, it's not like something you can eat, or I'm not talking about that Raspberry Pi, even though that Raspberry Pi is really, really good. But it's basically a credit card sized computer that you can buy, and you can run a whole operating system on it and stuff. But it also has these little pins here that you can use to program out to, I don't know, connect to lights or switches or do like various tasks with basic hardware that you want. You can also turn them into antennas, like radio antennas. Radio antennas are on the electromagnetic sphere, all right? So for Christmas, my mom has an old car that basically doesn't have any way for you to do Bluetooth, all right? It didn't even have like a tape cassette loader thing, because you know you have those tape cassette loaders that you can put in, and then it will have like an aux cable that comes out and you can plug it into your phone. Well, you can't really plug aux cables into your phone anymore, so now it's just all Bluetooth. So the point was, these guys have Bluetooth on them. So I wanted to have it so my mom could hook up her phone to this device with Bluetooth and then transmit a radio signal from one of these wires through it like a little antenna, and all an antenna is just a floppy wire that's hanging out. So I just had this really long wire hanging out to be the antenna that she could dial in on her car on the radio station she wanted to listen to. Now, this was going great, things were getting installed, moving along just fine, and then it came to the test phase. And the test phase is where I got super paranoid, because at least in the US, I mean every country, there are laws in regards to transmitting signals across the air. And you're only allowed to use a very narrow specific bandwidth for normal recreational usage, and the rest are reserved for specific uses and government uses and so forth, so on and so forth. Well, when I turned it on, it just transmitted the loudest and craziest signal, I guess. It's pretty much turned into a jamming device. So a jamming device is that stuff you see on TV or whatever, where like spies are coming in and they're like, oh, there's cameras, we need to jam them, and they'll turn on a jamming device and then everything goes static. That's basically what happened. So any type of wireless signal that was being sent was completely jammed. So my phone stopped working, the Wi-Fi stopped working. It's not because they were turned off, it was just because this thing was just so much louder than everything else. It was blocking everything else because you just couldn't get through a clear signal on anything else. And that's pretty much what electromagnetic interference is. All right, it's just a lot of just crazy shouting that messes up anyone else that's trying to go about their normal business. Make sense? Any questions on that? So as questions may or may not roll through, we'll go ahead and keep moving forward. So you're gonna hear, you've probably heard these terms all the time when you're trying to get internet speeds or you're buying a new router or something. Megabits per second or gigabits per second. And this is what the speed of your cables are usually measured at, all right? So if we go back to when we talked about data is in computers is going to be measured in bits. And bits scale, and this should have been in your hardware section with Taylor, but they scale from mega to kilo to, from the normal bit to kilo to mega to giga, and it's basically a metric system. So every one is going to be 1,000 more of the previous. So kilo is going to be 1,000, mega is going to be 100,000. Giga is going to be 1,000,000. Is that 10 times more? Am I getting this right? Regardless, you're going to be basically adding more and more zeros at the end. I think it's 3 times, 1,000 times each. Whatever, we're going to move forward. So this is for megabits. So this is going to be every 100,000 bits that you send, 1,000,000 bits that you send, all right? I didn't say 100,000, I said million originally, all right? I can't get anything wrong, all right? I'm just kidding. We're all about oopsies here, right? All right, so this is for the bits that you send each second, all right? And this is where the marketing aspect comes in to all of this jazz, because this is individual bits per second. All internet providers are going to tell you what they provide for bits per second. But when you download stuff in Chrome or whatever you're using, usually they'll be measuring your data or how fast you're downloading stuff. If I can get back to here we go, in megabytes per second. And remember, megabytes per second is going to be 8 bits of information. So if you're paying for 100 megabits per second connections, when you go to measure your download speed, you're going to get 1/8 of that. So if you're getting 1/8 of that, you'll actually be getting 12 megabytes per second speeds when you're downloading stuff. So that's why there's usually a difference, and some people kind of get confused when they start downloading files and like, why is it so slow? I thought I was getting 100 and it says 12 there. That is why. All right, it's that nomenclature of bits and bytes. And usually, since this is a bigger number than giga for advertising, so bytes and bits per second, again, is going to just be that larger amount. This is going to be 1 billion. So it is 3. So you put 3 zeros for every single one. All right. So this is for 1 billion bits per second. But in marketing, look, we like big numbers. All right. When I'm getting something, I want to see a bigger, cooler number. I want to see 1,000 megabits. It makes me feel cooler, all right, than just 1 gigabit. You're going back, you're resetting at the beginning. So you'll usually see all the marketing in megabits because you get that bigger, cooler number. So it's easier for people to upsell you.
Computers now have primary
I have never known it was megabits for Wi-Fi. Yes. For what using in this hardware? I'm not sure what that question is specifically for. Zensu, can you reword that for me? Yeah. So if we go here, let's go ahead and do a good old speed test. When you do the speed test, you'll see here it's going to be in megabits per second. Hopefully this isn't going to mess up the stream too much. All right. Also, we're going to use this speed test for what do you call it? For reference for another thing that we're going to cover here in a second. Man, my up is not very good right now. Why? Oh, that is why. I need I'm very confused about unless it's referring to DC. That is kind of confusing, but I think that's referring to DC because the latency was 5 milliseconds. Moving forward, megabits. It's all going to be in megabits, all right? Don't get fooled by that at all. And if we download something, let's go to Ubuntu, for example. Ubuntu, and let's download the entire Ubuntu operating system. Download. All right, you'll see the download come up here. I don't know how big it will be for you guys, but you'll see here, you'll see gigabytes. So this is showing me how many gigabytes are left for the download. So you may be confused when you think you're getting 1 gigabit connection, but you don't see this going 1 gigabit a second. All right, that may be concerning, but it's actually, again, it's an eighth of what you would expect in that sense. Additionally, wind speeds, because a lot of people are getting access to higher and higher speeds now. Usually it was commonplace for people to get access, at least in the US, to like 20 to 50 megabits per second speeds. Now you can usually get up to a gig pretty easily and usually relatively cheap. You'll see that slowdowns still happen, and the reason for this now is because a lot of the servers that you're connecting to and trying to download their information won't transmit data to you that fast. So sometimes your bottleneck in the bandwidth will actually be the server you're trying to connect to. Also, another lie that's usually pushed forward to individuals is for gaming, that you need a large connection for gaming, or that more megabits per second for gaming is going to be more beneficial to you. That is a lie. Gaming is very lightweight. It does not take very much bandwidth. If you have more bandwidth, it does absolutely nothing for you. It is just all lies and marketing. You do not get any extra perks. Your connection will not be faster. Your connection is as fast as your connection is, whether it's at 10, 100, or 1,000 megabits per second. It's the same speeds to connect to any other server. It's just how much data you can push across that wire. And games, online games, are not that bandwidth heavy. All right. If you don't believe me, you can go and pull up your task manager. And how I did that is right click on your bar here and you can click on task manager, and you can go over to your performance and you will see your Ethernet here. So this is my Ethernet here, and you can see the megabits per second that you are currently utilizing. Let me make this a little smaller. And so the big thing, I guess I should cover this real quick. Megabits and bytes. When you see a small b, that is bits. When you see a capital B here, that is in reference to bytes. So big B, bytes, bigger information. It's talking about the actual byte, 8 bits. When you see the small b, it's talking about just an individual bit, so the smaller amount. So you can see right here how much you're sending and how much you're receiving. So when you're playing a game, pay attention to your send and your receive, all right? And you'll see when you're playing your online games, I know some of you out there are really into WoW, all right? Or Call of Duty or whatever. Play it on your computer, watch it. You'll see that it uses almost no bandwidth, all right? You don't need a higher connection in order to ensure that you will have lower latency or people think it's connected to your milliseconds like latency or your lag. There's absolutely no connection. It's a lie. All right, it's a lie that's perpetuated through mostly the communities themselves. It has no effect. The biggest effect is your networking from like your hops, and we'll get into that more in a second, and your physical distance from the server. Because again, what we talked about last time is data only travels at the speed of light, at max, the speed of light. You can't go faster than that. So if you are physically further away from stuff, you are actually limited by the laws of physics itself on how fast data can go from point A to point B. So, for example, if I'm in the East Coast of the US and I want to talk to servers over in Seattle or something, usually you'll see about 50 milliseconds of latency, all right? And there's not really much that you can do. That's just what you'll have. If I try to connect to someone across the Atlantic Ocean, I'll see about 100 milliseconds of latency. If I'm at the East Coast of the US, if you're over in, I don't know, London or something, and you want to talk to someone on the opposite side, I don't know what's opposite of London, Australia, China, if you try to connect to those, you'll always see around 200 milliseconds of latency. All right, there's no helping that. See if there's any questions. If you guys have questions, go and just post them in there. So I think we've talked about these guys enough. So again, megabits, you'll see even here, the lowercase b, that means bits. They're measuring every individual bit that comes across. Capital B is your bytes, so that's going to be your 8 bits. So this will always be an eighth of what this is. All right, so let's move on. Okay, I saw this earlier when I was looking through it. Baseband is also right here, so we're going to skip baseband and we're going to cover it right here. So we're going to get over to shielded and unshielded twisted pairs. So twisted pairs we talked about earlier. That was the twisted up cabling, usually in your Ethernet cable. Where is it? There's shielded and unshielded. Can you guys guess which one here is, well, this one and this one, or this one and this one? Which one would be unshielded and which one would be shielded? I know it's a little hard to figure out and deduce the answer, but hey, I believe in you guys. You guys are smart, all right? The shielding part is usually in reference to things to shield it from electromagnetic interference, right? So this foil here, or if you have that copper braiding that we saw on this is going to be your shielding, all right? So that's the difference between your shielded and unshielded twisted pairs. Now, is this the next? Yeah, right here. So where you'll see this come into play is in your Ethernet cables. There are different versions of it, and this can be very, very important if you're paying for high-speed internet, all right? Because not all Ethernet connections or cables are made equal, all right? So Ethernet cables are usually graded using CAT. What is the, no. This is how they're graded, you guys. Using CAT, all right? All right, let's move on. Using the CAT system, which I don't remember what, category, all right? And the categories go from, I don't know, I'm assuming they start at 1 and they're up to 7, I think right now. Will it show me on this one? Here we go. Oh, they're up to 8 now. So there you go. Here's a breakdown of all the Ethernet cables that you can have. All right. Usually you won't see anything 1 through 4 anymore. That's pretty much gone. You'll just see Cat 5, usually Cat 5e and up when you go to the store. And now you'll always notice this whenever you go to Amazon or whatever and you look at Ethernet cables that you need to buy. This information will be on the box and tell you what it's capable of doing. Now starting, I believe, at Okay, at 6. Yes, starting at 6, they started becoming shielded. As you can see here, they tell you the typical construction. Typical means what you'll usually see in the wild, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you will see shielded Cat 5e cables. Cat 5es are basically like the upgrade for Cat 5, as you can see, enhanced right here. All right. The physical construction of these guys are exactly the same. All right, you're still gonna have the twisted pairs, and it's still gonna have the 8 connections. 8.1, I'm assuming these are still gonna have the same. Yep, they do. They're still gonna have the same 8 cables. All right. The only difference I believe you'll see in them is the thickness of them, because you may need a thicker cable to send more data. All right, but these cables are graded for the data transmission, and you can't send a lot of high-end data across these cables unless you end up shielding them, because you'll generate more and more electromagnetic interference the more data you send it. Because again, at the end of the day, your data that you're sending is just electricity. You're sending electricity down these cables just like you do your wall socket in your house. All right, it is actual electricity. It's not very much, but it's actual electricity that are being sent down these cables. So that will produce that interference. So there's not enough that's usually sent at 5, but when you start getting to 6, that's when you'll start seeing the protected cabling, because you need to protect against the interference that comes up. And so that will be your shielded twisted pairs. They're calling it FTP. This is S/FTP. I'm not quite sure what the F stands for right now. So any of you guys are free to Google it and look it up. So you'll also see here the application, which will tell you the speeds that these cables are capable of doing. All right, Cat 5 usually is only capable of doing 100 base, which is right here. It tells you it's 100 megabits. All right, the 100 and the base is the number is usually in reference to the amount of data in megabits that you can send across the cable. Most of them are going to be only 100 capable. So if you're paying for a gigabit connection and you have old Cat 5 cable that's only capable of performing 100 megabits of data transmission, the problem that you may be running into is not that your ISP, your internet service provider, isn't giving you that full connection. It might be because you have just really old cables that need to be replaced. All right, typically all cables that are sold to you now will be capable of 1 gigabit per second. But this may also be an issue if you are paying for more, or maybe you're working at a company or a business who their internal network is at 5 or 10 gigabits per second. All right, if that is the case, you want to check your cabling, because your cabling may be the limiter in how fast your network is. A lot of modern hardware and routers and stuff that you get are starting to more commonly become 5 gigabit compatible in their data transmission, specifically on internal networks. So LANs, aka things that are within the house or the building that you have, not going out to the internet. So pretty much just know that the difference between these cablings is 5 is the most common one that you'll really see. 6 is building in its popularity. 5 is going to be capable of 100 to 1000 megabits per second transmission speeds, and usually are not shielded. Cat 6 cable though is commonly shielded. All right, and you'll see it in you'll see it shielded like at least like this. If not, if I do Cat 6, you'll also see like that plastic divider in a lot of them. So here you go. So you can kind of see Cat 7's even more robust, and you get that little divider in the Cat 6 one typically. All right. All right, let's see if any questions, comments, concerns. I don't see anything right now. So on the topic of cabling, this is in reference to the cable itself that we're talking about. All right, the wires and this cabling. All right, that's all we're talking about so far. But your Ethernet cable is a cable plus the end piece. All right, that end piece is referred to as a RJ45. So if we look that up, you'll see this is your little end piece, right? So the little end piece is in reference to the RJ45, right? And that's where you'll be able to see if you're wanting to build your own cables, which you totally can. If you go to your local computer shop, they'll usually sell raw cable and RJ45 connections, and you can get this little crimping tool, which right here is a little tab that you push down to secure it in place, and you can just open it up, lay down the cables into the pin configuration you need, which is this one right here, and then you can slide it on, crimp it, and bam, you just made your own cable. All right. You'll also notice that this cable looks kind of similar to the old phone cables or those phone connections. And usually no one really has landlines anymore, but if you do, you might more commonly have just the landline connection in the side of your house. Why is it like this? Because internet, the first version of it, was usually transmitted through telephone lines. All right, so this is an adaptation on top of that, which telephone lines have only 4 cables, and now we're up to 8 for the internet ones. I believe they have 4 cables. Telephone line. What is this? Yep, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, they have 4, so you're getting double the amount. Now, something fun that you'll see is this thing called Power over Ethernet. All right, PoE is what you'll usually see, because you can set up. Not all of these wires can just have to be used for sending data, transmissions. You can use it because data is electricity at the end of the day. You can set aside some of these purely for sending electricity across it, because it would be kind of annoying. Well, it is annoying if you have security cameras or other stuff like that set up around your business or your house or whatever, and now you need to plug in potentially like an Ethernet cable and a power cable to it. Or maybe you're trying to do something fun or cool or scientific in your backyard. Providing power and a data connection might be really annoying. So instead, cut out one of them. Cut out the power part, since a copper cable can send power, and you can use power over Ethernet, which will allow you to send data and power across the Ethernet cable to whatever you want. All right. The only thing is, we have the network adapters. This is in reference to last week. Your network adapters are cards that are in your computer or part of your phone. Those by default only support your cable sending data. So don't plug in a power over Ethernet to those cards, because you may fry them. You need special network adapters. Power over internet adapter for power over Ethernet. So PoE. You need special ones for interfacing with those types of connections. All right. So make sure you utilize those. Don't go crazy, because you may damage your hardware. All right. Any questions so far? So, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. We're going to keep on chugging forward. But if you ask anything, I'll go ahead and switch on over. So, we have single mode and multi-mode. So let's go ahead and put these in here. Single mode versus multi-mode. We've talked enough about phone cables, electricity, twisted pairs, Ethernet cables, more than most people want to talk about it in a lifetime, all right? It's important because as a programmer, you are using these all the time to send data. So you should know at least the basics about what you're using, all right? It would be crazy if you didn't, which it is crazy because a lot of people in the field right now don't know these things, all right? You guys are ahead of them by a long shot, all right? We don't just make devs here, we make great devs. And that's what your guys' path is currently on, is being a great dev. So, single mode, multi-mode. We're into Fiberland, all right? Fiberland. This is the Great Awakening, effectively. Actually, before we get into the Great Awakening of Fiberland, let's go ahead and jump onto a break for like 3 to 5 minutes, all right? If you have any questions, drop them into the chat during the break, and I will answer them after the break, okay? All right, sweet. I'll see you guys in 3-5 minutes. What is up? What is up? We are back. Wait a second for a couple other people to join back, and we're gonna get into whoops, let me go and change this real quick. My infamous typos have striked once again. Let's fix this. There we go. And save. There we go. Alright, sweet. So, side tangent, just to reinforce the lies that are spread on the internet. So, with this new information that you guys are being given, like, look at things a little differently. Alright? The issue with a lot of educational institutions is a lot of them will tell you how you should think about stuff. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you how you should think about it. I'm telling you, you should just look and analyze off the information that you're being given. Double check. Question everything, right? Because usually everyone's going to be out there to make a quick buck off of you, particularly in advertisement. And a lot of people, which it's just mind-blowing to me why basic literacy when it comes to internet, social media, stuff like that, computer hardware, isn't taught as a standard in school systems. It's a failure in the education system at large. Even if you go to college, it's a failure on their part too. Someone may want to Google gaming internet, alright? Because they're a gamer and they want to have good internet for gaming. You'll see sites like this come up all the time. Not just the high-speed internet one, but sites that look pretty darn similar, because they're usually made by the same company, and they'll make a lot of different sites, usually with the same look, but for fulfilling different purposes, and they're marketing sites. Companies are paying them to look like a third party that's has no associate at all, or just a blog or something, and they're just paid ads. That's what they break down to, all right? Literally, the whole purpose of this is to find a provider, all right? Now, these ads are all lies, and you can see the lies in here, all right? And I'm gonna break down the just amazingness of these lies. So, the first link here is for an internet provider, Cox, all right? I don't know if you have this one available to you or not. I don't. All right. I'm over, and you can see where I am right now. We don't have Cox where I'm at. All right. If you go to their site, they will try to upsell you right here in their verbiage. You play a lot of games, Call of Duty or whatever. You don't want to be dealing with latency or whatever. So they'll try to upsell you the higher, more expensive stuff, which will give you no benefit, all right? They will tell you that it's great for heavy gaming, all right? Because you're a gamer and you do a lot of gaming. Or maybe you game and you have other people on your internet, not just you. There's the gaming one right here, all right? But, you know, you think of yourself as a heavy gamer, or you want the better connection, all right? I'm telling you right now, both of these are overkill. Way, way overkill. You do not need this for heavy gaming. And you'll see here for their cheapest connection, they don't even mention gaming. They're trying to persuade you that 100 down is not going to be good enough if you want to game. It's a lie. 100 is more than sufficient for anyone that wants to game. It's an upsell they're trying to do. So stick with the cheaper one if that's what your price range allows. There's no reason for you to go with a higher tier because they're using the verbiage for it. Again, you don't believe me? You think they're right? Load up your favorite game, pull up Task Manager, and see what your speeds are that those games are using. You will be amazed by the little amount they use, all right? You do not need a lot of bandwidth to run your games. This would be more than enough, all right? And then if we go over to this stuff, this really makes me irritated, right? We go to this, and they'll have like the pros and the cons here. And they have this thing for internet gaming. What's the best one? They have this generic stat of latency, your average latency. Cool. Now you might want to go with Verizon, which, to be honest, I think Verizon is really, really good. So you should probably just go to them if you have them in your area, if you're here in the US, all right? But regardless of that, the speed or the latency here is just, I won't say it's made up because I don't know for sure it's made up, but it's as close as possible to being made up as you can get. Because latency to what? What latency to what? What are you trying to connect to? What is the latency trying to go to? Are you trying to go to a server in your same state, somewhere that's like 1,000 miles away? Like, what are you trying to connect to? All right, that's the first major question you want to ask. All right, and nowhere on here are they telling you what's going on. They just tell you your latency is going to be better on these networks. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. All right. Additionally, you will get very similar latency to the same connection across all of these devices. There is some things that could be different, but in general, the internet as a whole is a shared node center. It's distributed. Because you have Verizon, you just have Verizon of where you are. But if you need to go over to a server in Seattle, you're not on Verizon's network the whole time. You're hopping across servers to servers to connect to you. There's not a cable that connects you directly to Seattle from like New York, all right? There is no direct cable. There's hops that you make, all right, that take you all the way to Seattle. And you're going through multiple different networks. So these latency things are largely artificial at the end of the day, because you will see pretty much similar latency across these different networks. The big like asterisk to that is their own personal hardware on the servers that you're hopping through on their end of stuff, or maybe how they route you through things. But at the end of the day, you're going to see very similar latencies. All right. Don't get caught up in the marketing traps and these generic things that are just, yeah, you get this latency. Latency to what? Where? How close is it? Just things that irritate me when I see them all the time. It is just extremely, extremely irritating. All right. Now we're going to move on from that tangent. Any questions on that stuff so far? How many? Hold on one second. There is a grammar mistake on this still. How much do you... There we go. All right, let's move on. Multi-mode and single mode. We're in Fiberland now. All right, let's move on from coaxial cables and let's move over to Fiberland. Okay, we'll get into those in the next section. So we have single mode and multi-mode. So what are these things? Great question. Let's go ahead and click on this bad boy. Is there a Wikipedia article for this? No. Let's see right here. They don't have just a simplistic definition, but typically the difference is that single mode fiber cables typically are only going to allow for one, if not a couple, like, do they allow for multiple? They'll allow for at least one different type of light to be sent. Because again, light is, even though we think of light like, you know, I guess pixels are a great example of this. All right, let's go back and talk about pixels. Not the Google Pixel. Let's talk about actual pixels. All right, light is, can I open this in a new tab? Even though you look at your screen and you may see the color of yellow or I don't know, brown, or just something specific, white, right? That's not the actual, like, there's not one single color that's transmitting that. It's actually multiple colors that are being transmitted to you, and you are interpreting it as that one solid color. But it's actually a bunch of smaller colors that are being transmitted to you. So when we get to cabling, that's what is happening with multi-mode. I believe this is for simultaneous. So effectively, I'm gonna move forward with what I'm gonna say here. I'll double check on my other notes here, but effectively what's happening here is for single mode, you have one single light that you can really send, like one length of light that you're really allowed to send down the not the wire, the fiber, because that's all it's really capable of. So you maybe just a red, maybe just a blue, maybe just a green light that's being sent and transmitting your data. But when you have multi-mode, you can now utilize more than just one light to transmit data, and so you'll get faster connections. I believe also single mode is for one time, one person at a time is talking. Let me pull up my notes here and look for because I don't want to spend a bunch of time here Googling things. Where is my, oh, it's right here. Let's see here, fiber optics. So single mode is a fiber optic cable designed to carry only a single mode of light. All right, and multi-mode is used for usually for shorter distances, aka in your building or in a campus, and it has a larger core, which you can see in these pictures, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it allows for more than just one light. Let me see. Well, single mode allows for no, single mode does allow for more. Okay, I believe single mode is for one transmission at a time. Sorry guys for the little bit of confusion here on my part. So I believe single mode is for one transmission at a time because it takes up the whole bandwidth of the fiber. So you're sending your data across, and only one person can talk potentially at a time, compared to multi-mode, where it's large enough so you can transmit, as you can see, multiple sources of data down the cable at a time, and they won't interfere with each other. Can I get something else to help with confirming that? Why is Wikipedia gotta fail me right now? Alright, we're gonna just move forward. For now, I'll double check my notes. I guess the other thing that's common here that you'll see is single mode, even though it's smaller, it's usually used for longer distances because you don't lose the light signal as quickly and easily compared to multi-mode, which is a thicker cable, but since you can have multiple lights that are being transmitted down it, you can fit a lot more data down the pipe effectively. But it can't go as far because it is bouncing off the walls or the side of the cabling, because again, this is light. Where's that? There we go. This is again, this is light that's being transmitted, and so when light is being transmitted, it's actually going forward. It's being transmitted across, and you're kind of containing it in the glass of these fiber connections, and the light actually bounces around off the walls. You can't really get it perfectly through the center, especially if your cable is like being rotated and stuff. So they're made to be particular sizes, so even if you do have them in like a fiber cable wrapped around in a circle, the light will still be able to bounce forward correctly and reach the other end. So with the multi-mode, they are thicker cables, which means that you can send more data upon them, but the bouncing that happens is a lot more distance, because light will cross distances in these mediums. It's in glass. And glass will, even though glass is transparent and it seems like all the light goes through glass, not all the light gets through the glass perfectly. There are imperfections in it that will absorb the light and basically make it weaker and weaker the farther and farther you go. Keyword there, farther and farther you go. So with single mode, these are smaller cables, which means that when they do bounce, they're not bouncing as much, so they can go further because the degradation isn't as much for the sideways to sideways movement. But for multi-mode, its sideways to sideways movement is a lot more, so it gets degraded a lot faster. Also, yes, you can use pretty much any type of glass or plastic to make fiber cables. You could potentially try to make some at home. That's all fair game. The big thing is for fiber cables, when you're buying them and looking at them, I believe there are even grades for them. Yeah, right here, fiber grades. We don't really go into the fiber grades too much right now, but basically a lot of the grade is about the clarity of the glass that's inside of it, so you can potentially get less degradation when you're going through. All right, any questions on that? There are, go ahead and ask. I don't know why this is on here twice. But we have this thing in Fiberland also called wave division multiplexing. All right, fancy term for something pretty simple, and it's just using multiple colors to be sent over a single cable. All right, this is where I was talking about how, we have, multiple lights in every single pixel that's shining on your eye, and you're perceiving it as one single light. Even though you perceive it as one single light, that's not the actual case. You're actually sending multiple signals, so 3 signals of light to your eye. So that is what multiplexing takes advantage of, is that light doesn't really interfere with different wavelengths, so you can send multiple different wavelengths of light, aka red, blue, green, purple, whatever you want to do, down the same cable, and they won't interfere with each other, and you can effectively send more and more data down the exact same cable. So here's just a couple cool setups for it. And again, this is pretty expensive hardware. Fiber hasn't come down to a cheap enough price where you'll usually find it in the typical home, but I believe in the near future you will. All right, a lot of newer companies, for example Verizon, which I have, they actually send fiber straight to my house, and we have a modem which will take that connection. A modem's whole job is to basically transform a signal from one medium to another, aka light, over to something else like Ethernet, which I can then consume and use in my house. So that's what the point of my modem is it takes this fiber and turns it into Ethernet signals. Other people may have the coaxial cable, which my tab is gone for that, and you'll have a modem also, and it does the exact same thing. You'll get a connection through your coaxial cable to your modem. Your modem will convert it from the coaxial cable format to Ethernet so you can use it in your house. All right. let's move on to the next thing. Any questions on that so far? I don't even. You sent a message. I don't know why it wanted me to approve the message that you sent, but kawaii, but alright. That was kind of weird. Alright. Let's move on to the next item here. Wireless access points. So, these will look very familiar. You have a wireless access point most likely in your house. This is going to be what's helping transmit your wireless signal, right? Anything that transmits your wireless signal for Wi-Fi in your house is going to be a wireless access point. So some of you guys, I know it's very common with Xfinity. I'm not too familiar with the other providers because I've had Xfinity, so I can speak on it. Modems sometimes are their own devices. They can be their own devices. Routers can be their own devices, and wireless access points can be their own device. You can also smash them all together. All right, kind of like think of your phone. Your phone is a computer, but it also has Bluetooth, but it also has Wi-Fi, but it also has cellular connection. Depending on your phone, it also has NFC built into it. All right, a bunch of stuff that are jammed into the same device. They could be separate attachments per se for your phone that you would have to plug in to get Bluetooth, but they're conveniently one package. For Xfinity, usually they'll have your modem, router, and wireless access point all in the same box, so you only have one box that you plug into, and then you have your internet. I have two distinct devices. I have a modem, and then that modem has an Ethernet cable that goes to my router. Now, when we typically, and this is something that you'll need to separate thinking wise moving forward, is we usually call them routers. The house, in your house, whatever transmits the Wi-Fi is called your router. That is true. It is a router. And a router helps route traffic. That's the whole point of a router, is routing traffic. All right? But a router does not do anything with Wi-Fi at all. That's what a wireless access point does. It's just convenient that the wireless access point is also your router when you buy them at the store for your home. But wireless access points can be completely separate things. So you'll usually see this more commonly, again, in enterprise buildings, corporate buildings, stadiums, malls, anything that's a large area that you need to cover, because they're not doing anything special at the end of the day. Your router that you have at your home is basically the same type of, your wireless router is basically the same type of hardware they have to run in these other organizations. All right, they run into the same restrictions you do on how far the signal can be transmitted, the distance of it. You can't, have one that just covers a whole stadium. So they have to have potentially thousands of these. But they don't need the routing capability. The routing capability is what you need a router for. All right, so a wireless access point is not a router because it doesn't have the routing capability. It's there purely to be a point of where your wireless devices can then access, and that signal can then be taken to a router that's maybe at a different central location later on. So let's see here. This is a good graph right here. So you'll have potentially, you may not have power over Ethernet, which you're already seeing here again, a PoE. So this is a PoE switch, which is a device for helping with your internet traffic. We'll get into switches later, but effectively you can have lots of these set up all over a mall, all over wherever you are, and they will help have everyone connected at the same time. If you have a really big house, you may have messed with a wireless access point before. Usually these will be like things called repeater devices, which will pretty much allow you to extend your range of your signal across your house. Those are just different wireless access points that are around your house that you can use to access your Wi-Fi if it's really weak on one side of the house compared to the other. Any questions on wireless access points? Let's go here. There should be a Wikipedia page. If not, we'll click on the Cisco page for it. And again, it's just a networking device that allows for wireless capabilities to a wired connection. That's the big thing. It just consumes, it allows you to connect and then will send any signal across the wire to some type of central routing device. See if there's any questions. All right. SSID. We kind of hit on this yesterday on accident for reviews. Do any of you guys remember what I said what a SSID is? It's something that you use commonly. Evie has a couple more seconds here to answer the question, mostly because I know you guys on YouTube are pretty delayed. Internet connection name. Correct, Kwai. You nailed it right on the head. It is, I guess, for your Wi-Fi. Yes, the name, internet connection name for your Wi-Fi. That's a good normal person definition for it. Your SSID is your Wi-Fi name. All right, it's whatever the Wi-Fi name is. All right, the proper term for it is your SSID. And if we copy and paste this over in our Google, we'll see the same thing. It's for your wireless local network. All right, your network name, your wireless name for your wireless router or whatever you're using, or the wireless access point if you're at the mall. All right, that's what it is meant for. And you'll see if you go to your router settings at your house, if you have a wireless router in your house, if you go to the settings for it, you'll see that it is typically going to be labeled SSID. Sometimes it won't be because that's kind of confusing for the average person, but that is the term for it, the proper technical term for it. So keep that in mind. That is something that is important, and we're going to see as we move forward is your SSID. All right, sweet. So let's go ahead and move over here to wireless frequency ranges. So this is kind of hit on it earlier with our story time stuff. You'll see this a lot in marketing, particularly for your wireless routers. They'll say that they're capable of 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, internet communications, wireless internet communications. These are the wavelengths that you're able to transmit on legally. And if we look here, you can see a spectrum of wavelengths. And wavelengths at the end of the day it's everything you've ever perceived everywhere. So when you look at light is wavelengths, right? When you hear stuff over the radio, it's being sent to you over wireless frequencies, all right? Lights are wireless frequencies. Radio waves are wireless frequencies. Bluetooth is a wireless frequency. Your cell connection is a wireless frequency, all right? Radioactive gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays that burn you, they are all wireless frequencies. These are all wireless frequency spectrum things. They're all in the same category of stuff. Even though they feel very different and distinct, they are literally the same thing. It is pretty much different different wavelengths of light that are basically being transmitted to you. All right. Let's see here. So you can see a kind of a breakdown right here. Let me kind of like this one. Let me open in a new tab. So this is kind of a breakdown of what you typically see where, and there's a specific reason, and you can see your power lines are on here also because they transmit frequencies. This 50 to 60 hertz is what's done on the US or North American grid system. If you're in other countries, specifically like Europe, yours I believe is like twice as much. I think it's like 120. Don't quote me on that. I don't deal with electricity much, but that is also transmitting stuff. All right, it's transmitting frequencies across the air. So you can see that it's all about you're breaking it down to hertz. These are all in hertz. So gigahertz, pesohertz, terahertz. I don't quote me on that. Megahertz and hertz. Hertz are just like the clock cycles, like gigahertz, that are going on in your computer. It's one clock cycle, and that clock cycle is based off the same thing, electricity. The movement of electricity, aka wavelengths. The wavelengths is one cycle. These will look kind of familiar if you kind of remember back to your what do you call it? Back to your old math classes. If you guys ever got to sine waves, it's basically what they're kind of, you can kind of think of it like that. You know, they're just these waves that go up and down, up and down, and up and down. And depending on how close and squished together they are, that will dictate the speed they are, because the speed is basically how fast they go up and down. All right, and they are like a thing that's physically measurable. So you can see here below the actual length to complete a full cycle. So a full cycle, if we bring up Paint here, my computer's freezing up. A full cycle is going to be like that, right? Or is it, sorry, like that. There we go. That's a full cycle. There's other ways to interpret it, like a circle. I don't really get into that. I mean, you can look up videos per se, but this is one cycle. This is 1 hertz. All right. So this, measuring from this point right here to this point right here, is what this distance is. So when you're dealing with wireless data, 30 centimeters. So what is that? That's a yay big, right? Not too familiar with my centimeters. For 1 gigahertz, that's literally how physically long the wavelengths are. So if you set up a wireless router and your phone was super close, like right against your router, like closer than what the minimum would need, I guess specifically against the antenna, there is a point where you literally can't transmit data between each other, because you can't really get the whole what do you call it, the whole wavelength. Like, is that true? I don't know if that's true. Basically, you'll run into issues if you are too close to the device, to the devices. But these are actually, again, actual things that you can measure. All right, let's go back to this specifically, and this varies on your country, and I think they have multiple countries here. Yeah, this is South Africa. This one's the United States. We're going to use this one. But even though all of these frequencies exist, it doesn't mean you're allowed to use them. So there is a sheet. This isn't really that high in your definition, but it says right here 30 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, 300 megahertz, 30 megahertz, and then going down to 0 hertz. Right? Across this, there are wavelengths that you are allowed to use and you are not allowed to use. And if you are using them, I believe the FCC, right? Or the FTC, at least in the US, FTC. No, FCC. Yes, the FCC will pretty much come knocking on your door if you're doing things you're not supposed to. Because you need specific licenses to work in specific spectrums. But not even that, if the government is using specific spectrums and you're using them also, you're going to cause interference with them. And they ain't going to be very happy. They're going to find you, all right? And they're going to charge you with a fine or put you potentially in prison because you are potentially messing with their operations. You don't want to be messing with something, let's say, like FAA in the US, so people that control planes landing, going up, so forth. You don't want to mess with their radio comms that are going over these frequencies. If you do, it's not going to be good for you, all right? So there are graphs and things for every country that will have allocated spaces that you are allowed and not allowed to do in the unlicensed space. And then if you get licensed, you can use potentially additional spaces. I wish the higher version of it was, looks like this one's Canada. I don't know why these are so low end, but it's important to know your frequency ranges. And we already talked about hertz. The 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz that you usually see on your Wi-Fi, I believe will be, I think that should have been covered on the hardware section, like a little bit more in depth, at least to the standards. But just in case, I'm going to recover if this was a review for you guys. IEEE, remember this organization? We're going to be referring to it a lot. IEEE comes out with standards because we're dealing with computer land, which means in computer land, it's the wild, wild west. Anyone can do anything they want at any time. There is nothing stopping you from adhering to any type of standard that's been met. IEEE is just a standard that most people will be following, so that way their devices can communicate with each other. IEEE has standards for Ethernet. So 802.3 is going to be for Ethernet LAN, aka your wired connections that are being sent across. So this is something you will need to know. All right, 802.3 will be on the test. All right, it will ask you potentially what is this for. And 802.11 is the wireless standard, all right, for your Wi-Fi. So you will need to know this. This governs everything from 2.4 to 5 to 6, I guess, and 60. But it's the standard for anything that's going to be for your wireless access points. So you need to know this. These are important. And it literally outlines everything you need to do in order to meet those standards. And that's where they had confusing names before. And again, I believe this was hit on your hardware section, but as review, that's where you get the 802 N, A, AC, G, like they were just, they're the worst with names. This is the naming scheme. Okay, so what makes more sense to you guys? If I tell you I came out with version 1 of my product, and the next year I came out with version 2, and I told you next year, oh, here's version 3. And then the next year after that, I tell you, oh, we had a version 4 in the works, but we didn't really like that much, so here's 4.1. So I gave you 4.1. Does that kind of like at least logically make sense on what comes after each other? Cool. IEEE, they thought that was too easy, so instead they did things alphabetically, all right? So A was one of the first standards, all right? And then they came out with B and then G. So before, when you looked at your wireless router to know what type of speeds your router was capable of, you would need to track, the letter, all right? But you can see the letters skip. I go from B to G to N because, again, they would come out with prototypes and they're like, we don't really like this one. Let's scrap it and move on to the next one. And so these are the ones that they actually released. And then when they ran out of letters, they rolled back and said, okay, let's do A at the beginning of everything and then put a new letter at the end. Very confusing. These people are obviously really, really like smart individuals who are all about consumer clarity, right? Yeah. Literally not until very, very recently. This was the standard. When you went out to go buy hardware for your wireless router, you would need to know these to know what you're getting into, to know your speed. All right. Just recently, a couple of years ago, they were finally like, oh, you know, that is kind of confusing. Maybe we should stop saying like B, A, G, like all these letters. Why don't we just put a number? All right, so it's easier. So now you will see, and it's pretty much used everywhere now. It was adopted pretty much immediately by manufacturers because it was super, super easy for end consumers to understand what the hell is going on. But now you will see version 4, version 5, 6, and so forth on your Wi-Fi, and that corresponds directly to an IEEE standard that's being used. And these standards allow for more capabilities, more speeds, and those extra ranges, aka 2.4 to 5 gigahertz ranges. Why we moved away from 2.4? Because 2.4, it's not just 2.4. There's an actual spectrum. Can I click on it? Will it tell me? It's between 2.4 and another number. Here we go. 2.4 to about 2.5. That's all you get for that connection. All right, but again, think of these like light bulbs. Light bulbs take up a certain type of light. So let's say this little blob here that's labeled channel 1 is like a light bulb. That light bulb can only really talk to one person at a time, at least effectively. You could talk to more people, but if you talk to more people, basically everyone else would have to wait until you were done talking to that light bulb, aka that person in this frequency. And 2.4 could only really handle up to where is it on here? I believe it was 13 channels. Effectively, they're called channels. That's the actual technical term for them. Where is it? But main point moving forward, there's a certain amount of channels that you are allowed to talk across. All right. It's very limiting at 2.4 because there's only a couple there. And again, the size of these wavelengths come into play because you can only fit so much data across a wavelength because of the actual limitation of size. So 5 gigahertz is almost 2 times smaller than 2.4, which means over the exact amounts, the exact same space, you can send almost twice as much data across. But not only that, with 5 gigahertz, what am I looking for? I want 5 gigahertz, so IEEE, we clicked on this guy. Let me go back here real quick for this one. And we were on this one. For your 5 gigahertz range, please tell me there's a pretty graphic. Okay, at least tell me the range that it goes to. Basically, again, there's a spectrum of range from 5 gigahertz to some top value, which I don't know off the top of my head, that you're allowed to transmit over. But since everything is smaller and 5 is slightly larger in the amount of bandwidth that was allocated to it, you can fit more devices on 5 gigahertz than you can on 2.4. They both work equally fine. But 5 will give you better speeds, better performance, and you can have more devices on it at the exact same time. All great, cool things. The only issue is with wavelength size changing, that also tells you how much it can permeate through materials. So 5 GHz, anything that's smaller, the smaller and smaller that you typically go, means that it will be more easily blocked by stuff. So 5 gigahertz isn't really good at penetrating walls. Sorry, it isn't as good as penetrating through walls as 2.4 gigahertz. So 5 gigahertz ranges usually will require either more wireless access points to cover the exact same area, or they'll just only be really good in really small areas. All right, 2.4 though can go a lot farther. So if you are farther from your wireless access point than like you would want to be, and you notice that 5 gigahertz, when you're connected to your 5 gigahertz antenna, there's usually issues with connections, you may want to switch to 2.4. Even though it is like the older version and technically can be slower, it might be, oh no, what happened to my computer? Did I just crash? No, what is going on? Uh-oh. Web browser, come back. No, what is going on? Am I still streaming? It looks like I might still be streaming. Let's close this. And let's see if I'm still streaming. Am I? Okay, I see. Okay, my web browser is back up. I can see you said that you can still see and hear me. I don't know quite what happened there, but my browsers are no longer working. My Streamlabs looks frozen, but I see you guys in the chat saying everything is good. Let's get the music back on. I'm gonna ask again, just one more time. Are we good? Can you see? Can you hear me? If we are good, I won't restart Streamlabs and we'll just keep chugging forward. And where is the... We're on this one. And right here. Kind of blurry, but that's not... probably, oh, that's probably me. Okay, perfect. All right, let's chug forward then. So 2.4, it goes further. It's better if you're further away. Go with that. Another area where you'll see this issue is with the new 5G phone wireless connection for your phones. 5G runs into the same issue as 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. It is a smaller bandwidth, which it can't travel as far as easily without degradation, and it gets blocked by walls a lot easier than 4G wireless connections for your phones. All right, so that is why you'll usually see a lot of 5G connections around densely populated areas, because it's more cost effective to put them and plaster them everywhere there, And then when you're not in a densely populated area, you either will get just only 4G or 5G. All right, it's not like 5G it's not real 5G. All right, it's basically fake 5G. It's kind of like when they were going to 4G and they were labeling some stuff as 4G, but it was actually like 3.5G connections. It's fake 4G, and this is fake 5G. All right, and you'll even see it. I don't know why. It comes down to marketing, basically. A lot of marketing crap where they're trying to sell you on stats and statistics to make them feel, or make you feel like they're more competent than their competition. But when you connect on your phone, and you'll see that your phone will tell you whether you're on 5G or 5G UC. Basically 5G, when it says 5G and it has UC right next to it, that's the real one. All right, that's the real higher speed one. When it doesn't say that, you're basically on the low grade version of it. What they're doing is with the UC, which I forget what it stands for right now, I'm guessing U is for ultra. You're getting the full smaller wavelength deal, which sends data super fast. You can get, I think, up to like a gigabit per second on your devices. The other like faker stuff is literally just straight up 4G, which is using a wider bandwidth, or you're using in the 5G stat, they do have a lower bandwidth one, which the lower bandwidth one is a longer bandwidth, which means it can penetrate through stuff more easily and it can go further, but it has slower speeds. All right. Let's see here. That's enough for wireless frequencies. We talked a lot about wireless stuff. All right, so let's cover data transmission method. We'll cover. Oh, okay. Here's the standards. We're gonna go over these standards once more when we hit these guys. So we'll go over these ones. We're gonna go on a break real quick, and then we'll go over them right after the break. All right. Can I even? Will this even work? Oh, I gotta wait for. Oh, it does work. All right, sweet. We're going on a break. We'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just confused because my Streamlabs is like frozen, but it still let me do the transition slide, so that's cool. All right, I'll see you guys in 3 to 5 minutes. All right, we are back. Get some of my coffee here. Wait for another second or two for everyone to come to. How you guys doing so far? Everything making sense? Any questions at all? You guys are doing great? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Alright, we're about to be just wrapping up here. These ones we've half hit on, and the other ones are pretty easy to understand. So this shouldn't take too long here. But let's talk about them. Alright? Data transmission methods. Let's go ahead and take these ones. I'm going to clear out all my tabs here because we got lots and lots of tabs. Alright, let's make these a little bit more. Alright, so baseband and broadband. So let's talk about this. So baseband transmission is a data transmission technique in which one signal needs the whole bandwidth of the channel to transfer data. Broadband transmission is a transmission technology in which many signals with different frequencies can be send data across a single channel at the same time. This is typically in use when you're talking about cables. All right. Let's see here. Not what I was looking for exactly. But basically, let's see here. Transmission. So basically, it kind of is the same concept we kind of talked about earlier with in regards to fiber. Like only one light can be sent at the same time. This also translates for baseband and broadband. This is specifically in regards to wired connections most typically. So your cabling can be coaxial, for example, could be potentially baseband or broadband. Usually modern coaxial cable is broadband because you can send different frequencies down the cable at the same time, aka increasing your bandwidth. Even though you have the same old cable that's maybe been there for 10, 20 years, you can send more signal because you can basically overlap multiple different signals at different wavelengths, sending across the same medium at the exact same time. Baseband is only one, and as you can see here, Ethernet cables are typically baseband transmissions, and that's why you'll see the rating as 10 and then base, all right, because it's a baseband transmission. And you'll see if you, for the larger cables, this will be more so when we talk about the transatlantic cables tomorrow, but the coaxial cable transmission speeds or rates. Let me see here. Can I get the wiki article? Because this should have it right here. So here you can see for your coaxial cables what they are capable of doing. And is it this one right here? The type is, I believe, what will tell you if it's is capable of doing just baseband or broadband. Regardless, that's not going to be on the test, but that's the main thing you need to know is baseband only one. Broadband, you can have multiple signals interchange with each other. So another issue that you'll have with fiber and coaxial cable is the signaling method they use. There are two different signaling methods that you can use. All right, there's digital signals, and there is analog signals. All right, digital signals are what we're most commonly used to in the computing world. That is a 1 or a 0. You are either sending data down the line, aka there's electricity that's being transmitted across the line, across your Ethernet cable. If there is electricity, that is perceived as a 1. If there's no electricity, that is perceived as a 0. That's why it's binary systems. At the fundamental level with electricity, it's literally there is electricity being sent, there is no electricity being sent. And it will typically look, in reality, it looks more like this, but in theory, it would be perfect little boxes. You either have nothing, I like this one more. You either have nothing being transmitted across or you have something. In reality, it's not actually, I like this graphic actually a lot the most, because in reality, there is, it's actual electricity being sent through these cables. And we like to think of zeros as being like no electricity is being sent across the cable at all. But in reality, you can see 0 volts here, and it's a little bit above that. In reality, there will always be electricity being sent across the cable. That's how your computer can tell whether the connection is live or like ready to go, primed. So 0 will be at a lower voltage and 1 will be at a higher voltage. As long as there's that distinguishing thresholds, you'll be good. And as long as you're getting data that's very much blocky like this, like you just shoot straight up and you shoot straight down, that's a digital signal. All right. Analog signals, on the other hand, are not this blocky instance. They're going to be what you see most in the natural world. All right, analog signals are natural. All right, these are what you get when you shine a light on something, or the light that you're perceiving from your computer screen, or radio frequencies that are going through the air. Those are going to be analog signals. All right, they're going to have that little wave value to them, and that's why you need things called modems at the end of the coaxial cables or your fiber cables, because they sit there and you're actually translating analog signals across these mediums. And you need to take the signal and then turn it into digital signals. That's why you can't just plug in a raw coaxial cable or a raw fiber cable into your computer and have it work. You need something that will translate from analog to digital. All right, so this is something that's very important to know. There's only 2 types of signals in this realm, and it's going to be either analog or digital. And the big thing is just the waviness, the sine waves of everything. All right, any questions on that? All right, let's talk about half duplex and full duplex. Half duplex. Well, is this going to be a good article? Doesn't even exist. Why is it showing up on Google? All right, half duplex and full duplex is just a basically telling you how you can communicate. So I don't really like this graphic too much. There we go. We can do this one. New tab. So half duplex means that, duplex means that there's two-way communications. That means you connect 2 items and they can send data to each other from both ends. All right, that's what duplex means. Do in English is saying that there's 2. It's duo. All right, there is simplex, which you might have seen in one of these graphics right here, which means it's one-way communication. All right, you don't talk to me, I talk to you. All right, we're in a simple well, if I didn't look at chat at all, we would be in a simplex communication method. I tell you things and you listen, and that's it. We're right now in reality more like a duplex, because I'm not really good at multitasking. A half duplex. All right. So how half duplex works, let me go back to this image, is I talk and send data. Then I'll stop, and then it's your turn to send me data. Yeah, I like the walkie-talkie method. So if you ever mess with the walkie-talkie, usually you press the button, you can't talk to each other at the same time. It's one person is sending data, and then they need to stop, and once they stop, the other person can then start talking and sending data. Why I say right now we're more at a half duplex is because I talk and tell you things, and then I will stop, look at chat, which is basically you sending me data, and I will intercept that, and then once I'm done interpreting what you sent me, I will then start answering your questions, basically, or whatever you guys have said. All right, not that good at multitasking, which is what duplex is. Duplex means that you can send and receive data at the exact same time. So all of your modern Ethernet connections are going to be capable of doing full duplex communications, which means they can send and receive stuff at the exact same time. All right. Any questions on this? Again, duplex means two-way communications. Half means one person at a time talking. Full means both people can talk at the exact same time. Any questions in regards to that? And let's pull up IEEE 802. I'm looking for any questions if you guys have any. So IEEE 802 is a big, broad standard that covers a lot of things, particularly in networks. All right. And these are going to be small networks, right? Not the internet abroad. These are going to be for your LANs. Now, there are stuff that we cover in our courseware for these PANs and these MANs, which we haven't really covered yet, but effectively they work exactly the same as LANs. So LANs, local area network, is going to be stuff typically like within your house. All right. PANs are kind of smaller than that. They're personal area networks, and that's going to be usually like your Bluetooth device. You know, Bluetooth is your personal, think of it like a bubble right around you. So if you have Bluetooth headphones on, a smartwatch on, and your phone, that's going to be your PAN, your personal area network. All right. And metropolitan networks will be things within like usually a city. All right. A bigger area, but it's still not like a lot. All right. But the main point is the 802 is for these regional, like smaller networks. All right. They are not for the internet broad. They are everything in regards to the smaller networking bubble. So that's where you can look here and you can see all the various types of regulations that they have for all these. And it's notated by a dot and then a number. And that number will then tell you what it's all about, like what it's for specifically. So the only ones that we want you guys to know is 3 and 11. All right. And if we look here, 3 is going to be for Ethernet. So you need to know that 802.3 is for your Ethernet connections. And this is the regulations for anything in the Ethernet world. All right. And then 802.11 is everything for your wireless access points. All right. This is everything in the wireless world. So all these cool little AI, AX, so forth, and then your Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8, Those are all regulated by 802.11. So you guys need to know those are the standards for those individual items. Any questions on that? And that pretty much brings us to the end of our day for cables, transmissions. What did I label it today as? Where is it? Right here. Cables, lights, signals, oh my, all right? That's what we just sat here and talked about. All today was cables, lights, and signals, all right, that you can transmit across in all the mediums and the different verbiage you can use for sending data and the capabilities that are out there. Any questions in particular about any of these things that we talked about, we went over? If not, that's pretty much going to be a wrap for today. And then tomorrow we're going to start talking about our digital and telecommunications convergence and these lovely things right here. And this is where we're going to actually start getting into TCP IP. And this will start making a lot more sense. I'm going to wait for another minute or so just to see if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, if they want to roll in. I know there's some pretty large latency on the YouTube side of things, but if not, that will be the end of our stream today. All right. All right. I don't really see anything else coming in. So that will be the end of our stream today, y'all. We will continue tomorrow. All right. And I will see you guys on the next one. Oh, I see Jimbo. I see you saying wait. What's up? What's up, buddy? Oh, you want to raid me? All right, go ahead and raid me. We just finished up talking about internet standards. I can do a little song and dance if you raid us. I can tell people about how they're getting scammed on their internet. Do it. All right. I hear you guys want. Sweet. We got the raid coming in. Hello. Elevator pitch. You guys want to hear how you're getting scammed by your internet providers? Does their chat come through on our chat? We talked about this a little bit earlier, especially for your gaming internet. Alright, well, if they want to hear about how they're getting scammed and how a lot of companies are trying to get them to pay for more stuff, go ahead and drop something in the chat and we'll I'll tell you all about how they're wanting to screw you over. I see Kauai is excited. You were here for it, all right? You got the whole verbiage. Not sure. Yeah, that's fine. Uncertain. What are these emotes, man? These emotes are crazy. Thought it was gonna be on time. No, we start around 7 and we will go for 1 to 3 hours. So it depends. Today we went for almost the full 3 hours. The donation link should be in the description, at least on on YouTube. You can go over here to our Streamlabs link right here. Chat pause due to scroll. There we go. and that will be attached to all of our YouTube stuff. If you want to donate, I would say donate. If you want the most like hype, you can donate. What do you call it? Tomorrow when we start, right at the beginning. That's when everyone will be here in primed. But what do you call it? But I mean, you can donate right now. I'll definitely do my whole dance for you. All right. Yeah. Wait till then. I'll do still the same dance. Also, you see this beautiful sweater I have? Look how warm and amazing it looks. And look at the back here with Rootkit. Look at that. It's so awesome, right? You can nail one of these if you go over here to our donation, and if you hit the donation threshold, you will be able to get one of these amazing exclusive sweaters. They are thick, they're heavy duty, all right? Yeah, they're super warm and super nice and soft on the inside and nice and like rugged on the outside, all right? And all rewards and any donations come with a little song and dance. All right, maybe I should download Voice Mod also and do some like funny singing also. That would be fun. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. We'll see. Auto tune time. I have to change like the song that plays to a song that requires lyrics, and then I'll sing along with it. Because now it's just something really loud that just blares. But overall, this is what just happened. My Streamlabs broke halfway through the stream, so it's completely frozen. So Jester's Advent has now followed us. Look at that. Thanks for the follow, buddy. Wink, wink. I know who you are. IRL, all right? I'll give you a kissy kiss. Aye. All right, so I mean that's pretty much the end of the stream today. So we'll be back at it again 7 p.m. for the next 80-something days. Again, tomorrow we are going to be going over digital and telecommunications convergence. All right, over all these guys here. So I will see you guys on the next one.